In this video, I'm going to show you how to back up your configuration to your InvisiLights system. So what you're going to do is you're going to go into your WLED native app and you're going to go into your InvisiLights system. And as it's loading, what you're going to do is you're going to see a menu of options at the top where it says power, timer, sync, peak, info, and config. You're going to click on config at the top right. Down here at the very bottom where it says security and updates, you're going to scroll down there and click on security and updates. And then you're going to scroll all the way down to where it says backup configuration. So what we're going to do is once you got your InvisiLights all set up, you got the number of lights in for each port, you got it all set up. So you want to back that up in case it ever gets erased. Or if someone was to mess with your ports and put in the wrong system, you could always come back and have it from your files that you can come from. So we're going to click on backup configuration. And so watch what happens when we click on it. Turn blue, and now at the bottom it says download completed. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to show you on a phone like here, it put it into my files folder. So if I click on my files folder, we see that we have it right there at the top left, WLED, CFG, InvisiLights. That's what it did, is it downloaded my configuration into the system. So if you have a computer, you can also do this on your computer where you can go ahead and create a folder. You can create an InvisiLight folder and you can have your configuration and your presets backed up and put in that folder. So if anything was to ever happen to your system, you have it right there. But for training purpose, let me go ahead and show you when you will use this. So we already backed it up. And if we go back into the configuration, which is the top right, let's click on that. And if we go to LED preferences, which is the third one down, so let's click on LED preferences. So right now on this system that I have with the InvisiLights, I have a total of 86 lights. And if I scroll down to port 1, you can see I only used one port on this system. I've got 83 lights. If you look at port 2, there's one. Port 3, there's one in the length. And port 4, there's one in the length. And the reason why is I've showed you guys and told you guys this in training. The system comes defaulted with 300 lights with 75 lights in each port. And you're going to go in and adjust that. So like, for example, right here, I have 83 lights. That's where we would put it in. Now, what we're trying to do is we're trying to get this set up where really the customer can't go and mess with this. What we have found is, let me just click done, is sometimes a homeowner, their kids or someone will get on the app and they'll come to this section and they'll start messing with things. So like, for example, where it says port 1, it's got the S key 6812. This is the system we're using, RGBW. But if you click on that, you can actually change it here, and sometimes that happens. Kids will go in there, the homeowner will mess with it, and they'll do something that's wrong. Or they'll come over here to this RGB, which is right below it, and they'll mess with this here. Again, it happens. People mess with it and play, and it gets messed up in the system, and the lights won't do what you're wanting it to do if you don't have the right ones in. So again, we're trying to work on this where really and truly all the installers have to do is come into port 1, put in their length of lights. If they used the reverse feature, they can click on the blue button, or if they used a data booster as an LED light or an LED light as a data booster, they would come in here and skip maybe the first LED to use that as a data booster. But in this case, that's all you're doing as an installer of those three things. But with this system, I did not use an LED as a data booster, so I'll leave that at 0. I do not need the reverse system because I'm only using one port and I like how my show goes. And I have my 83 lights. So let me show you what happens if I needed to back up and use my configuration. So let's go ahead and hit back and get to our main screen here. And if you ever, again, if that ever messed up and you need to restore your configuration, then you're going to click on config, which is at the top right, top of our screen. And you're going to scroll down to security and updates. Click on that. And then when that comes up, you're going to scroll back where you backed up your configuration? Well, right below that, it says restore configuration. And right below that, it says choose a file. That's what we're going to do. We're going to choose our config file on there. So if you have it on your computer, you'll need to do this on computer where you can get to those files, but we did this on this phone, so I can go ahead and click choose file. And there's my WLED CFG, my config that I saved down at the very bottom middle of the screen. So I'm going to go ahead and click on it. And there it is right there where it said choose file. It has it right there. And now I'm going to click upload. And if you notice when I did that, it says configuration restored successfully. So now what happened is you're going to have to restart this process from the very beginning. So if I click back, you notice right here where it says InvisiLights at the very top in the green, it's moving, meaning it's no longer connected to my personal Wi-Fi. So what I have to do is close this out. I have to give the box a minute or two because it just restored the configuration, and what it did was it just forgot the personal Wi-Fi that we connected to, and so now it's giving off its own Wi-Fi signal. So now I have to go into my settings, which is right here at the top left, and I have to go into Wi-Fi. So if I click on Wi-Fi, what I'm looking for is WLED-AP. Now, it's not coming up, and the reason why is sometimes it takes a minute or two, a few minutes, for the configuration to download back into the box. So this can take some time, but now you see the network popped up, WLED-AP, which means it's now giving off its own Wi-Fi signal. So let's click on it. If it asks for a password, it's all lowercase WLED1234. Again, that's WLED1234, all lowercase. So now we have to click on Wi-Fi settings. So we need to connect back to our personal Wi-Fi that we were on. We're going to click scan, which is right under Wi-Fi setup, connect to existing networks. Let's click scan, and it's going to bring up my network. Again, it's a 2.4 gigahertz is what it's compatible with. And there's my network, GCASA. And then I'm just going to go in and I'm going to erase this password and I'm going to put in the right one just in case it didn't remember it. And then once I have that, I'll click done. And then I'm going to stroll back to the top and I'm going to hit save and connect. That's very important. And then I just wait for it to boot me out. I leave it on this screen and I wait for the box to stop giving off its own Wi-Fi signal and connect to my personal Wi-Fi network. Now there's going to be several steps you got to do. So see, it booted me out. I'm going to go ahead and close this up. I'm going to give it a few seconds before I click back on the WLED native. I just want to make sure the box is connected to personal Wi-Fi. So let's go ahead and click on the app, WLED native. And there's my network back up. Now, if you did it right, your lights are going to turn orange. So remember, it was green. Now they're orange because it just reset to this configuration. So I'm going to go ahead and click on InvisiLights and get back into my system. And I'm going to go there again, the top menu section. I'm going to go into config, top right of the screen. And I'm going to go to LED preferences because what it did is it restored it back to my case, the defaulted factory settings that I have, which is my total LEDs of 300. And of course, it did my ports. Again, I got the right SK6812 in there. I got the right RGBW, so that's what you want. Again, if someone went in there and messed with it or erased it or whatever. But I do have to put in the correct length of lights. So on this one, again, it was 83 is what I had on port 1. I did not use a reverse feature. I did not use a skip LED, so I can go ahead and click done. And then I'm going to go to port 2 because I didn't have any lights on that. I'm only going to put in light 1. And the reason why I do that is I don't want to affect the show if I was to do a chase. And so what will happen if I left those 75 lights in there, it would be a slow chase, meaning it would go through my first 83 lights on port 1, and then the system thinks it needs to go through port 2, 75 lights, port 3, 75 lights, and so forth. So I just take them down to 1 because the system requires that you put in at least 1, and then that way my chase goes on pretty quick. So everything looks good. The only thing I need to do is click save. So there's one more step I need to do, because what I need to make sure is that my segments that I have all my presets on are also the same with the number of lights. So I'm going to click back. I'm going to go back into my system. And now when it comes up to the main screen and I got those menu of options at the top of the screen where it says power, timer, sync, peak, info, and config, I'm going to click info. And by clicking info, I'm going to scroll all the way down to where it says at the bottom right, reboot WLED. I'm going to click it once, and then it's going to turn red to confirm, do you want to reboot? And I'm going to say yes. And so again, wait for about 10 seconds to reboot. What it's doing is it's getting all your ports and segments and everything to match the total lights that you have on your system. So in my case, it's 83 lights. So again, if you did it right, your lights will be back at orange. And if I go into my presets and I go into, let's do Christmas multi. Actually, I accidentally went back. So let's go back into my presets. And if I go down to Christmas multi, it's kind of taking a minute while it's loading. Let's click on Christmas multi. So if I click peak at the very top, and we'll go ahead and do Christmas multi, we see I got those lights on. So Christmas multi is now on there. And if I go to my segments, which is down at the bottom of the screen, I can go click on the down arrow where it says blue, go to the very right. If I click that down arrow, I now have start LED on 0 and ending on 86. And that's what you want. And it did it to all of my segments. Ending on 86, go to green, ending on 86. It added the total number of lights that were in my system. So always remember this last process step when you're restoring your configuration. It's going to kick you off your personal Wi-Fi, so you'll have to go ahead and re-enter and get into the Wi-Fi box itself and re-enter in the personal Wi-Fi. And then once you've done that, put in the correct number of lights for each port, click save, and then go back into info at the top and do your reboot, which is located at the bottom. So this is how you would properly restore the configuration on your InvisiLights system.